Alright guys, today we start Unit 2, Day 1, talking about zero and negative exponents. Our learning target for today is using laws of exponents to simplify an expression. So let's go ahead and take a look at our chart here. Okay, so our first one, we have power 2 to the power of n. So in this case, here's our exponent that we're going to substitute for n. So 2n equals 2 to the third power, which equals 8. So let's take a look what happens here. 2 squared, so 2 times 2 equals 4. Okay, 2 to the power of 1 is just 2. 2 to the power of 0. Now, anytime we multiply or we raise our base to the 0, it is always going to equal 1. All right, 2 to the power of negative 1, what happens here is that you can never have a negative exponent, so you have to flip it to the bottom of the fraction. Okay, it becomes the denominator, so now it's 1 over 2. Okay, and then we have 2 to the negative second power. Again, you can never have a negative exponent, so this just becomes 4. Same thing with to the power of negative 3, it becomes 1 over 8. Now let's take a look over here now. So 2 to the power of 3. Okay, or I'm sorry, 3 to the power of 3. Okay, 3 times 3 times 3 would equal 27. Okay, 3 squared equals 9. 3 to the first power is just 3. And again, what do we say? Anything raised to the power of 0 is just going to always be 1. Doesn't matter what the base is. It could be 1,000,000. Raised to the power of 0 is always going to equal 1. Okay, same thing as up top. Okay, you can never have a negative exponent, so that is actually going to become the new denominator of a fraction. So this is 1 over 3. Okay, this becomes 1 over 9. And this becomes 1 over 27. Okay, notice all the negative exponents are flipping to the denominator of the fraction. All right, let's take a look at this next one. 4 to the power of 3, okay, equals 64. 4 squared equals 16. 4 to the power of 1 equals 4. Okay, to the 0 always equals 1. 4 to the power of negative 1 is going to be 1 over 4. 4 to the power of negative 2 is going to be 1 over 16. And 4 to the power of negative 3 is going to be 1 over 64. Same kind of deal. I'm sure you're getting the point by now. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this chart. Okay, so there's our chart. Now let's take a look at the next question here. What happens when you raise anything to the power of 0? Okay, we kind of talked about this already, but what is that answer always? Okay, the answer will always be 1. What happens when a number has a negative exponent? The answer will always be a fraction. So what you're doing is taking a look here at this one. Notice how all the answers are always fractions. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about zero exponents again. All right, zero exponents. Anything raised to the power of 1 or power of 0 is going to equal 1. So 2 raised to 0, 5 raised to 0, 100 raised to 0. Okay, this next one's a little different though. Remember, that negative is actually outside. Okay, so you got to do 2 to the power of 0, which is 1, but then that negative comes along with it. Okay, 5 raised to the 0 is 5, the negative comes along with it. Same with 100 down here at the bottom. All right, negative 2 raised to 0. Now remember, it does not matter what number is raised to 0. it's always going to equal 1. So negative 5 raised to 0. Negative 100 raised to 0. Okay, and then this is the same way we kind of talked about. Okay, so remember this goes here, this goes here, this goes here, then the negative just comes along with it. All right, let's try a couple. We can use zero exponents with variables as well. Here are some special cases to consider. Okay, this 0 is actually 2x, so x raised to 0 equals 1. So in this case, this is going to be 3 times 1, which is going to equal 3. Negative 10x raised to the 0, so that 0 is going here. So it's negative 10 times 1 is negative 10. All right, anytime you have an exponent outside the parentheses, what you need to do is distribute it to both. So it's negative 4 raised to the power of 0 times y raised to the power of 0. So what it comes out to be, negative 4 is just 1 times 1, so you get 1. Okay, notice there was no negatives out front. The 0 is raised to the whole thing, so that's just always going to equal 1. Okay, so negative 9y raised to 0. 9y raised to 0 is going to become 1, and your negative follows it. Okay, let's take a look at it with a little bit more difficult stuff. Notice 0, it's raised to 0 the whole problem. Doesn't matter what is inside, everything is going to equal 1 here. Okay, in the next problem, we have negative 10 times our whole expression raised to 0. So this really becomes negative 10 times 1 is negative 10. So any expression or variable or term raised to 0 is going to equal 1. So in this case, negative 10 is just outside the parentheses, so you're going to end up multiplying it and get negative 10. Now let's talk a little bit more about negative exponents. Remember, 2x and 2 raised to the negative x are opposites. Okay, when a number has a negative exponent in the numerator, then it moves to the denominator. When a number has a negative exponent in the denominator, then it moves to the numerator. Okay, so it doesn't always have to move to the denominator, it can also move up to the numerator. Let's take a look. Okay, right now, remember, every single number is always under or over 1. So 2 raised to the negative 3, we are going to move that to the denominator. Okay, by doing that, we're moving the entire thing. So it becomes 1 over 2 raised to the power of 3. So 1 over 8. Notice, the negative exponent, by moving it to the denominator, becomes a positive exponent now. It's the whole reason we are moving it, because you cannot have a negative exponent. All right, in our second problem, 5 raised to the negative 4th, we are going to move to the top. So it becomes 5 raised to the 4th. 5 raised to the 4th is 625. Okay, negative 2 raised to the 6th is already over 1, so we are going to go ahead and move the entire thing to the bottom. Okay, so it becomes 1 over negative 2 raised to the 6th, so you get 1 over 64. Okay, why don't you go ahead and try the last two. Okay, so here we go. We have 32 and we have 1 over 9. Okay, any questions or comments or concerns, come see any one of your algebra teachers here at Warren and we'll be able to help you out. Next step, make sure to only move the number or the variable with the negative exponent. You're not moving negative numbers. Okay, so 4 times k to the negative 8. In this case, the only thing we're moving is k to the negative 8. We are not touching our 4. So k to the negative 8 is going to move to the bottom while the 4 stays. So it'll be 4 over k, our negative 8 becomes positive. And that's your answer. You can't simplify anymore. Okay, here, all we're going to move is n to the negative 12. Our 3 is staying. Okay, so when we move this, we're going to move it to the top. Okay, what do we do with the or with our numerator? Well, right now there's no negative exponents, so all of that is staying. So m to the 9th stays, n to the 12 comes up, and then you're still left with 3 on the bottom. Okay, can you simplify 8 over 3? No, so there's your final answer. All right, the next one. So sometimes what happens is you end up having to move a couple different variables. So m to the negative 3, that's going to move. Okay, remember we are not moving negative numbers, so just because the negative 2 is up there does not mean we're moving it. Okay, but we also have to move k to the negative 2nd. Both of those are negative, have negative exponents, so they have to move both of them. So we're going to move m to the 3 to the bottom and k to the negative 2nd up top. So our negative 2 is going to stay. Okay, we are moving k squared up. On the bottom, our z is going to stay. And we are moving m to the negative 3rd, which is going to become m to the 3rd to the bottom. Notice now, because we move them, the 2 becomes positive and the 3 becomes positive. All right, let's try one more. So what are we moving here? J to the negative 4th. We do not have any other negative exponents, so that's the only thing we're going to move here. So we're going to take j to the negative 4th and move it to the bottom. Okay, we're left with nothing on top now, so we're just going to have our 1. So negative 4ab squared stays, and our j to the 4th comes down. Okay, there's no simplifying involved, so here we are finished with the problem. So let's go ahead and try the next. Actually, why don't you guys go ahead and try. I'll do it for you. 2 raised to the negative 3rd is going to move. Okay, we also have k raised to the negative 10th that's going to move. Okay, what other negative exponents do we have? M to the negative 12th is going to move. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at what we're going to have to move here. So 2 to the negative 3rd is going to come down to the bottom and become 2 to the 3rd. K to the 12th is going to come down to the bottom. Okay, and then M to the negative 12th is going to come up top. Okay, here though we do have to simplify. Okay, you have 4 squared times 2/3, or 2 to the raised to the 3rd power. So 16 times 8, k to the 10th equals 128 k to the 10th. Okay, so your final answer will be m raised to the 12th over 128 k to the 10th. Okay, so notice here, 2 raised to the negative 3rd, a whole number. It wasn't just a variable. We moved to the bottom because it has that negative exponent. You can never have a negative exponent. All right, next up, 9 raised to the negative 2nd times a to the 4th times c to the negative 100th over negative 3 raised to the negative 4th and b raised to the negative 8th. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight all my negative exponents on the top as well as the bottom. So it looks like we're moving a few things here. Okay, 9 raised to the negative 2nd and c raised to the 100th are both moving to the bottom. And then we are moving negative 3 raised to the negative 4th and b to the 8th to the top. So our a to the 4th is going to stay. Negative 3 raised to the negative 4th is going to come up. And b to the 8th is going to come up. So that gets rid of those. We've used our a to the 4th, so 9 squared comes down to the bottom, and c raised to the 100th comes down to the bottom. So now go ahead and simplify. You have a to the 4th, negative 3 to the 4th is going to end up being 81. So times 81 times b to the 8th, all over 81 times c to the 100th. Our 81s are going to cancel, so we're left with a to the 4th, b to the 8th, over c to the 100th. Okay, why don't you go ahead and give the last two a try on your own. All right, so on 128a, so the only thing moving is the negative 2 raised to the negative 4th. And here, you're actually just moving a to the negative 2nd and b to the negative 5th around. Okay, there's no simplifying, so there's your answer. Remember, you are only moving the numbers with the negative exponents. All right, so now let's try to put it all together. So in our first problem, let's see what we have to move. Okay, so first off, what we want to do is get rid of any exponents or negative exponents. So a to the negative 12th is going to move, and it looks like that's all. Okay, so we end up with b to the 15th over c to the 15th. Our d raised to the power of 0. What is d raised to the positive 0? That's 1. Okay, so times 1 times a to the 12th. So this is going to become b to the 15th over c to the 15th, a to the 12th. All right, number 2. Number 2 here, negative 4 raised to the 0 is going to be 1. So negative 5 times 1 times x to the negative 5th. Okay, you do have to move x to the negative 5th to the bottom of, or to the denominator. So when we do that, you get negative 5 over x to the 5th. And number 3, the only thing that's going to be moved here is v to the negative 12th. Remember, we are not moving our negative numbers. Okay, so in this case, v to the negative 12th is going to move to our denominator. We are left with negative 3 over v to the 12th. All right, this is 2 times our whole expression to the power of 0. Anything to the power of 0 is going to be 1. So 2 times 1 times h to the negative 12. We know our exponent, or our variable that has a negative exponent, is going to move to the denominator. So in this case, we are going to have 2 over h to the 12th. Okay, so in problem number 5, right now, we already have 1 x to the power of 0, which we know is 1. Okay, what else do we have in this problem? We have a y to the negative 1st and an m to the negative 20. We know that those are going to end up going onto the bottom of the fraction. So we have y to the 1st, m to the 20th. We're going to get negative 8 over ym to the 20th. All right, number 6. Okay, the whole thing is raised to 0. That is 1. In our denominator, we have j to the negative 8th and m to the negative 15th. So those are going to move upstairs to the numerator. So then we have 1 j to the 8th, m to the 15th. And that is our answer there. All right, number 7. All right, we have a lot of moving to go on here. Okay, 2 to the negative 5th is going to be moved. M to the negative 3 and Q to the negative 9th is going to be moved. Okay, what's moving down here? 8 squared and B to the negative 20th. C to the 19th is going to stay since it's already a positive exponent. Okay, so let's go ahead and do our top portion first. We know 8 squared is moving, and 8 squared is 64. And we know B to the 20th is moving. Do we have anything else? No. So we're going to go ahead and go to the numerator. We know negative 2 to the negative 5th is moving, which is going to end up becoming negative 32. We know m to the 3rd is moving. We know q to the 9th is moving. And we know c to the 19th is staying. Okay, our last step now is just to simplify. 64 divided by negative 32 is negative 2. So it's going to be negative 2b to the 20th over m to the 3rd, q to the 9th, and c to the 19th. Okay, why don't you go ahead and give number 8 and 9 a try on your own. All right, so number 8, all you had to do move was the 8 to the negative 2nd power and y to the negative 8th, as well as the 4 to the power of negative 1. Okay, when you do that, you flip it around, and then you simplify, you get 16y to the 8th over x to the 3rd. Okay, notice number 9 here. Okay, this to the power of 0 and y to the power of 0 just kind of complicate things. So what I did is I replaced it with 1. So 3 times 1 times 2 to the negative 5th, and negative 4 times 1 times m to the negative 7th. From there, you can go ahead and move it. Okay, you get 3m to the 7th over negative 4 times 32. So your final answer, 3m to the 7th over negative 128. Okay, the more you practice these things on your own, guys, the more they come more naturally to you. So make sure you are practicing on your own. Okay, explain the error in complete sentences, then simplify correctly. So what we're going to go ahead and do is rewrite the problem, then solve on our own. So here we just know m to the negative 2 is going to move to the bottom or our denominator of our fraction. We get 2 over m squared. So what did they do in our in the first problem? Okay, they took the entire thing and moved it to the denominator. So that's what we're going to do. They moved the 2 down when it should have just been the m squared. Okay, number 2, let's go ahead and rewrite our problem. All right, we know that anything raised to the power of 0 is going to equal 1, but that doesn't do anything to our 4. So what we get is 4 times 1, which equals 4. Okay, so what did they do? They forgot to multiply by the 4. All right, if you need any help, you can go to the resource room or you can come see one of your teachers. The homework for today is worksheet 1. Worksheet 1 is your homework.